In this video, we're going to learn about using jQuery to change CSS styles. And you may wonder why we would do this, but you can make something a different color, a different size, you can move it to a different position, and that leads to one of the really great uses of jQuery is to animate things. But you can't really understand how to do that before you see how jQuery manipulates CSS properties. So this video is not about animation, it's about the introductory step, changing CSS properties. So we have a really simple page that has a div that's set up to look like a colored square, and 3 paragraphs and an H1. So the HTML looks like this. So normal head, and in the body we have an H1, we have a div that has, oh, actually I don't want that class to be on there just yet. Just a plain empty div, okay? A regular paragraph, a paragraph with a class, and a paragraph with another class. So we're actually going to make these 2 paragraphs the things that are clicked to change the color of the div, and the second one will change the border radius of the div. So the CSS is pretty simple. We've got normal head and body things, and the only thing you might not have seen before is a div that has both a width and a height, and nothing inside it can give you a shape, such as a square. So that's what we've got here. And the jQuery, I have it set up with, of course, the document ready surrounding everything in the file. And we're going to have 2 different event listeners. The one listens on the paragraph that has a class change color, and it listens for a click. And the other event listener listens to the other paragraph that has on it the class change border, and it also listens for a click. So of course what we're going to do inside here first is we are going to change the color of the div, and what we'll do in the second one is we'll change the border radius. So what is the jQuery code that we need to do that? Well, since it's the only div on the page, we can of course start by saying, okay, it's a div, it's an element. We'll target it by using its element name. Then to change its CSS, we type dot, because it's a method, right? And CSS, and inside there we're going to put the CSS that we want to change or apply. Like maybe it didn't even have any color at all to begin with, but we're going to change it from this brown color to an orange color. So we go into the parentheses and we have to type the CSS property name inside quotation marks. So the background color will be changed by the property name background. And then after that, we have to put a comma, which is a little strange, right? But you have to follow the jQuery syntax, right? And then the value also has to be in quotation marks. And I'm going to paste this color, this hexadecimal color that I've saved. So this is how we would change one single property to a different value using jQuery. And so I'll set that one up first and just save it and reload the page. And then when I click this paragraph, my paragraph changes color. So the other one will look a little bit different from that because what I want to change is the border radius. And let's see, so again, I will target the element and I will use the CSS method, right? So in here, I am going to type border radius exactly as it would appear in your CSS file, but with quotes around it, and then a comma, and I'm going to make it 40 pixels, right? So that'll be a good round corner on all 4 corners. And so now if I save that, go back over here, save and reload. So nothing happens, I don't have anything on the square itself. But the border radius can be changed like this, and the color can be changed like this. Now the next thing you want to do is you want to put more than one CSS property in the event listener. In other words, if you're going to change the CSS, maybe you want to change multiple properties with one click. And the styling is a little bit different than you might expect. So I'm going to do that in this one up here. And I'm going to make some space because we actually have to put it into curly braces. And so it's going to be one of those JavaScript object notation formats. So you're going to have the property and the value and the property and the value, but they're formatted a little bit differently from what we've got down here. So we're going to have background for the first one, but not in quotes, and it has a colon. And then we're going to have the value, and it does have to be in quotes. So I will X that out and put it right there. And since I'm having another pair, I need a comma at the end of that line. So it's different from the way it was before. And I will get rid of that. So now I'm going to bring up the border radius. So this is the second line inside these curly braces, right? Curly braces so that we can put more than one property into this CSS method. But because it is set up as a JavaScript object notation object, right? A JSON object, we can't have the hyphen. And so we need to style our typical CSS property a little bit differently than the way we do it in an actual CSS file. Then a colon, and then the value has to keep its quotes, okay? So, and this one does not need a comma after it, no comma. Now, this is the end of the event listener, okay? So this line on line 6 has to have this as the ending, all right? So we'll pull that up a little bit. But don't get confused by these crazy curly braces that are now inside our CSS method, okay? Somehow I managed to delete the closing parenthesis, and that's a problem. So remember that a CSS method in jQuery, it's not CSS paren paren. So I've lost that closing paren. I'm going to put it right here. And if we look at this line from our previous event listener, you realize that CSS paren paren has to end with a semicolon. Well, this is that same paren, and so we need that semicolon. So yeah, this is kind of weird. You've got this, and then you've got this, and you need all of it, right? You need all this punctuation. It's JavaScript. It just needs all this punctuation. So now what's going to happen when we click the change color paragraph, we are going to have both things happen at once. And so we will go over here and reload, and I will click that, and voila, two things changed at once. Now you know we're building up to something, so I know this is a lot of talking for not much effect, but bear with me, okay, because we're going to show you all the things. So while all that works, it's kind of annoying, right? So it's like kind of a lot of stuff to write in the JavaScript way, in the jQuery way. So let's look at an easier way to do that. Instead of putting it here in the jQuery, we can add a style. And right now, I don't have any style that gives the div, orange and border radius and so forth, but I'm going to add that right here at the bottom of my style sheet. I'm going to copy and paste it. So I'm making a new class. It is named orange, and it has that orange background, and it has that border radius in plain ordinary CSS. And so I save that, and then I can go into my jQuery file, and instead of writing all this junk that we just wrote, get rid of that. Okay, get rid of that. I can say add uppercase C class. addClass is a jQuery method. And so since it's a class, we would normally write it like this with a dot, but it already says addClass, so we actually don't use the dot. I know, that's confusing, but it's short, right? It's really nice and short. So I am gonna take that and reload, and now we get both things at once, and we had to just write a little style in our CSS and this tiny little bit of jQuery. So much nicer. And I'm gonna copy that, and I'm gonna put it down here. And you're saying, why? Why would you do the same thing twice? Because I'm gonna remove that class. All right, so we can add the class and we can remove it. And maybe we want to change our paragraph a little bit. So we can say to add a class to the div, and this to remove a class from the div. All right, let's save and reload, and add a class, remove a class, add a class, remove a class. I'm clicking, right? Clicking on my paragraphs. That, remember, my paragraphs have these classes on them, so me changing the text is just a nicety. What we really need is, what are we listening to? We're listening to the paragraph that has that class. We're listening to the paragraph that has that class. So add class orange, which we put into our CSS right here. Nice little orange class, right? Add it, remove it, works great, okay? But of course there's more, because sometimes when we do something two ways, we fade in, we fade out, we slide up, we slide down, we hide, we show. Sometimes jQuery gives us a toggle. Yes, there is a toggle class. So we can say toggle, we can get rid of this one altogether, and now it's so much simpler, and we'll save it, and we'll just do it on this top one, and I can just click, click, click. I am on this same one, click, 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 click. I am toggling the class orange on and off, on and off. So when orange is off, it goes to what it was by itself in the CSS, right? So it's just a div with a width and a height and a background color, but when orange is on, it has a different color, and it has the border radius, so it has the curvy corners, right? So pretty nifty thing that we can do with jQuery. And of course, we wouldn't have to be using a paragraph. We could be using a button, and we could also make the change occur on the div itself if we put this class change color into the div. So we could do that, and just the exact same class that we already have on the paragraph, and save and reload. And so now I can click on the square on the div, right, to do the changing. And one other thing I want to throw in quickly is that we could also do this with a mouse enter, right? So in a previous video, you've seen mouse enter, mouse leave. And this is set up the same way that we did it before. And we're just adding the class orange and removing the class orange from the thing that has this class, which is now the div itself, right? So we can get rid of that one. Okay, I can't forget my quotation marks, right? Sorry. So save and reload, and now mouse leave, mouse enter, mouse leave, mouse enter, mouse leave, mouse enter, because on mouse enter, add the class, on mouse leave, remove the class. So lots of things we can do with these. So what have we covered in this video? We have covered the CSS method. We have covered it when you put only one property and value into it. We have covered the way that you can put multiple property value pairs into it by adding curly braces. And we've also covered addClass, removeClass, and toggleClass. So we've covered all the things that jQuery can do with CSS styles.